What if the reason you're struggling with money has nothing to do with how hard you work? What if it has nothing to do with your income, your education, your opportunities, or your discipline? What if the real reason, the actual root cause, is something you were born with, something wired into every human brain on the planet, something that made perfect sense 200,000 years ago and is quietly destroying your finances in 2026? That's exactly what I'm going to show you today. Your brain is not designed for building wealth. It is designed for survival. And those two things are not just different, they are often directly opposed to each other. Once you understand the specific ways your brain is working against you financially, the psychological traps, the cognitive biases, the hardwired instincts that feel completely rational but lead to consistently terrible money decisions, you can start to override them. And when you do, everything changes. Let's get into it. Let me start with a bit of context, because understanding why your brain works the way it does makes everything else make sense. For the vast majority of human history, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years, survival was the only game in town. Finding food, avoiding predators, staying warm, protecting your tribe. In that environment, certain mental shortcuts were incredibly useful. React fast to threats. Prioritize immediate rewards over future ones because there might not be a future. Follow the crowd because if everyone is running, there's probably a good reason. Avoid loss at almost any cost because losing resources in a survival context could be fatal. These shortcuts are not bugs, they're features. They kept our ancestors alive long enough to have children, who eventually had us. But here's the problem. We are now living in a completely different environment. One where the biggest threats are not predators, they're financial decisions. Where the most important resources are not food and shelter, they're money and time. Where the right response to a threat like a market crash is not to run, it's to stay calm and keep investing. And our brains, running the same software they've run for 200,000 years, are applying survival logic to financial situations with predictably disastrous results. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. Brain trap number 1, present bias. This is the tendency to massively overvalue things that are available right now compared to things that are available in the future. Here's how it works in practice. Offer most people a choice between £100 today and £110 in a week, and most will take the 100 today. Even though 10% in a week is an extraordinary return by any investment standard. Now scale that up. Your brain is making this calculation constantly. Spend this money now on something enjoyable or invest it for a return you'll see in 20 years. In survival terms, taking the immediate reward makes complete sense. You might not be alive in 20 years. You definitely are alive right now. Take the food. In wealth building terms, this instinct is catastrophic because wealth is built almost entirely in the future. The returns on your investments today are not primarily felt today. They're felt in 10, 20, 30 years. And a brain wired for immediate reward finds that almost impossible to intuitively value correctly. The fix for present bias is automation. When you remove the in-the-moment decision, when your investments are set up to happen automatically before you even see the money, your present bias has nothing to act on. The decision has already been made by your future thinking self before your present bias self could interfere. Brain trap number 2, loss aversion. Here's one of the most well-documented findings in all of behavioral psychology. The pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. Think about what that means for investing. Your portfolio drops 10%. That feels genuinely awful, like a serious problem, like something has gone wrong. Your portfolio gains 10%. That feels good, but not nearly as good as the drop felt bad. This asymmetry, the fact that losses hit harder than equivalent gains, drives some of the most destructive investing behavior imaginable. It's why people sell during market crashes. The pain of watching the portfolio fall is so intense, so physically uncomfortable, that selling feels like relief, like taking control, like stopping the bleeding. But here's what actually happens. You sell, you crystallize the loss, you move to cash. The market recovers, as it always has in all of recorded history. And by the time you feel safe enough to reinvest, prices are significantly higher than where you sold. You've turned a temporary paper loss into a permanent real one, and you've missed a recovery. Loss aversion didn't protect you, it destroyed your returns. The fix is pre-commitment. Before any market volatility happens, write down your investing rules. I will not sell during a crash. I will keep contributing regardless of what the market does. Having those rules written down, committed to in advance, in a calm moment, gives you something to hold on to when the loss aversion is screaming at you to act. Brain trap number 3, social proof. Humans are deeply social animals. For most of our history, being rejected from the group was a death sentence. You couldn't survive alone. So your brain developed an incredibly powerful instinct to look at what everyone else is doing and do the same thing. In a survival context, brilliant. If everyone in the tribe is running, run. If everyone is eating those berries, they're probably safe. In a financial context, catastrophic. Because what everyone else is doing with money at every level of society is mostly wrong. Most people spend more than they should. Most people carry debt they shouldn't. Most people don't invest consistently. Most people don't have an emergency fund. Most people are going to reach retirement with far less than they need. And your social proof instinct is constantly pulling you toward those same behaviors because they're normal, because everyone around you is doing them, because doing something different, spending less, investing more, saying no to lifestyle upgrades makes you feel socially abnormal. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Getting to a genuinely different financial destination requires genuinely different financial behavior, and genuinely different financial behavior will often feel socially weird, uncomfortable. Like you're not playing by the rules that everyone else is playing by. You're not. That's exactly the point. The fix. Consciously choose your financial reference group, not the people physically around you, but the people whose financial behavior you want to model. Books written by genuinely wealthy people, communities of people who are seriously building wealth, mentors or role models who are where you want to be. Your social proof instinct will still fire, but it'll fire toward better behavior if you've chosen a better reference group. Brain trap number 4, the Diderot effect. This one has a name and most people have never heard of it, but I guarantee you've experienced it. Denis Diderot was an 18th century French philosopher who received a beautiful scarlet dressing gown as a gift. He loved it. But then he noticed that everything else in his study, his old desk, his worn chair, his faded curtains, looked shabby next to it. So he upgraded the chair. Then the desk looked worse by comparison, so he upgraded the desk. And on until he had replaced almost everything in his study and spent far more than he'd intended, all triggered by one new item that made everything else look inadequate. Sound familiar? New phone that makes your laptop look dated. New sofa that makes the whole living room look tired. New car that makes your driveway look wrong. The Diderot effect is the reason one purchase so often spirals into many more. Your brain is calibrating everything relative to the new thing, and suddenly everything else falls short. The fix is simple, but requires real awareness. When you make a new purchase, consciously notice if it's triggering the urge to upgrade surrounding things. Name it. That's the Diderot effect. And then choose whether to act on it rather than being pulled along by it unconsciously. Brain trap number 5, optimism bias. Here's one that feels like it shouldn't be a problem, but absolutely is. Most people believe they are less likely than average to experience negative financial events, less likely to lose their job, less likely to have a health crisis, less likely to face an unexpected major expense, less likely than average to have their investments underperform. This is statistically impossible. By definition, roughly half the population will experience worse than average outcomes across all of these areas, but almost everyone feels like they'll be on the right side of the average. This optimism bias, this feeling that bad things are more likely to happen to other people than to us, leads to catastrophically bad financial preparation, no emergency fund, because something unexpected probably won't happen to me specifically, no insurance review, because serious illness is for other people, no backup income plan, because my job is probably secure. And then when something does happen, as eventually it does, to almost everyone, there's no buffer, no plan, and the financial damage is far worse than it needed to be. The fix for optimism bias is not pessimism, it's realistic planning. Ask yourself honestly, what would happen to my finances if I lost my income for 3 months? If I had a serious unexpected expense of a few £1,000s? If my investments dropped 50% in value? Run those scenarios, plan for them, and take the steps: emergency fund, appropriate insurance, income diversification. That means you're genuinely prepared rather than just optimistically hoping. Brain trap number 6, hedonic adaptation. Here's the final trap, and it's the reason that buying things almost never makes you as happy as you expect, and why it makes you no happier at all after a surprisingly short period. Hedonic adaptation is the human tendency to return to a roughly stable level of happiness regardless of what happens to us, positive or negative. Win the lottery, you adapt. Serious accident, you adapt. Get the promotion, you adapt. In all cases, within months, your happiness returns to somewhere close to where it was before. This should fundamentally change how you think about spending money on stuff. When you buy something, a new gadget, a nicer car, an upgraded holiday, you get a burst of pleasure. It feels great, but within weeks or months, you've adapted. The new thing is now normal, the pleasure is gone, and you're scanning for the next thing that will make you feel that way again. This is why more stuff doesn't make people happier beyond a certain point. The brain adapts, the pleasure fades, and the thing that felt like it would transform your happiness becomes just another unremarkable part of your daily life. Meanwhile, the money you spent on it is gone. It's not compounding. It's not building your freedom. It contributed a few weeks of pleasure and then nothing. The things that don't adapt as quickly, experiences that involve other people, freedom and autonomy, the ability to choose how you spend your time, security, the feeling of having a financial buffer. Interestingly, these are all things that wealth built patiently over time actually provides, not the stuff, the freedom. Right, 6 brain traps. Now let me give you 6 specific ways to override them. Override number 1 for present bias. Automate everything. Set up automatic investments before your money hits your spending account. Make the future decision in a calm moment and then take yourself out of the equation. Override number 2 for loss aversion. Write your investing rules in advance. I will not sell during a market crash. I will keep contributing regardless of market conditions. Keep them somewhere visible. Read them when the market is falling and your instincts are screaming. Override number 3 for social proof. Deliberately choose your financial reference group. Spend time with books, communities and content from people whose financial behavior you want to model, not just the people physically around you. Override number 4 for the Diderot effect. When a purchase triggers the urge to upgrade surrounding things, name it, pause, choose consciously rather than being pulled along unconsciously. Override number 5 for optimism bias. Run the bad scenarios, plan for them, ask, what if the worst case happens? Then take the steps that mean you're prepared, not just optimistically hoping. Override number 6 for hedonic adaptation. Before buying something, ask, will this still feel meaningful in 6 months? If the honest answer is probably not, consider investing that money instead. The freedom it builds will outlast any pleasure the purchase provides. Look, your brain is not broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's protecting you from immediate threats, prioritizing right now over later, following the social herd, avoiding loss, adapting to whatever becomes normal. These instincts kept your ancestors alive for 200,000 years. They're genuinely impressive pieces of biological engineering. They're just completely wrong for building wealth in 2026. And the good news, the genuinely exciting news, is that once you can see these traps clearly, you can build systems that work around them. Automation that defeats present bias, written rules that hold against loss aversion, deliberate community that overrides social proof. You don't have to win a battle against your own brain every single day. You just have to set up the right systems once that make the right behavior the default. That's it. See the traps, Build the systems. Let the systems do the heavy lifting. If this video genuinely changed how you think about your own financial behavior, and I hope it did, subscribe to this channel. Every week I put out practical, honest content about building real wealth. Drop a comment below. Which of the 6 brain traps do you think is costing you the most right now? Be honest. I read every comment and I reply to as many as I can. I'll see you in the next one.